a little changed since COVID started. So to kind of give you guys a background of kind of where I came from and why I've been doing Zoom. So like Van had mentioned, I've been in the field basically since day one, back about 7 years ago. Last week was when I actually started my career here. I was always in the field. I'm always a face-to-face person. And honestly, I still do think that that's probably the best way to connect with people. There's just some authenticity that's there that is harder to achieve on Zoom, but it can be done. It's just a little bit different. As you guys, if any of you guys know, if you've done a Zoom call and you've shared your screen and you can no longer see that face-to-face person, it's a different dynamic, but with practice and time, it can get easier and more natural and a little bit easier. So one of the main reasons that I kind of decided to transition to Zoom, and honestly, a lot of it was due to the pandemic. We had a lot of really high risk family members that me going out into the field and talking to people face to face, even with masks on, was just something that we weren't willing to take the risk to do, especially in the beginning. And then as time went on and I started being able to produce on a consistent basis, and our lifestyle with my son and my husband's work, we just kind of made it work. And it's why we're still doing it right now, which is kind of bizarre. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would transition my business to be completely online in sweatpants most days, I would not believe you. But that is kind of the reality that we've been able to kind of make. So a couple of things that my agenda that I kind of want to do today. So first and foremost, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about like the reason why I choose to do Zoom, some kind of pros and cons that go along with that. So if any of you guys are thinking of doing it, some of the really good parts about it, I'll kind of share, in a couple of the cons that are not really cons, but more obstacles and challenges that you might face while you're going through it. The second thing that I'll kind of go through today a little bit is a little more of the how-to. If you're not super familiar with Zoom, I can give you a very good Reader's Digest version to make you all feel better. I am not technically savvy at all. So if I can figure it out, pretty much anybody can do it. And then, so kind of more the how-to. And then at the very end, I think probably the most beneficial thing I can do for you guys on the call is just open it up to questions. So if any of you guys have tried Zoom or done it, or what challenges that you have faced, to kind of just open the floor up to see what your experience has been, or maybe some questions as far as like getting it started for yourself too. Okay. And again, if I'm interrupted, he's really cute, so enjoy, but hopefully he is distracted by learning sight words on television at the moment for the time being. So a couple more reasons why, it's pretty interesting, because when I first had my son, one of the biggest challenges was my time. So I am first and foremost a mother. So for me, that was a really important part. One of the reasons why I worked so hard for so many years before I ever had kids was to build my business to the point where I could be a bit more flexible. So I'm with Weston most days, as Van mentioned. I'm doing all of my Zoom calls pretty much in the evening, or during nap time, I call it, which most days I just hope he naps so that my appointments can come through. So that's when my husband is home, he can kind of watch him. So we've kind of created this cool vibe where, my husband's at work right now, he just left. And then I'm able to kind of watch Weston during the day. And then we kind of tag team and make it happen that way. So if you do have a schedule that's like that, Zoom can be a really good thing, because you can actually schedule people when you might not normally meet them in person, if that makes sense, like at a different kind of hour, which is kind of nice as well. Another reason I do mostly evenings is because if I do want to catch up with both spouses together, that's the best time to do it. And even though it's kind of inconvenient, if you have older kids, or if you want to have that dinner vibe or sports and running people around, I've just found for me that is the best opportunity for me to catch most people, is anything after 5. And there's some nights that I'll do a Zoom call with somebody at 9 o'clock at night. And that's one pro I will say, is that you can catch people at hours that you might not in person, which is kind of a good thing. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of transitioned to it. Another reason right now is obviously with COVID numbers rising, it just doesn't make sense to get back in the field. A lot of people that I tend to work with also are kind of in that first responder slash essential employee type industry. And I hate to say it, but since COVID started, I get phone calls on a weekly basis with my clients getting COVID. So for me, it didn't make sense for me to really go back into the field quite yet if I didn't have to. So we're just kind of getting creative with it. Um, the next thing I was going to kind of say is kind of go more into like the how to, as far as like how I go about, like what my daily schedule looks like. So one of the biggest things that you need to protect is, if you think of in the field, right? Prospecting time is pretty important, guarding your schedule, filling your pipeline, seeing as many people as you can. Because the more people that you see, the more opportunities you get to demo something, and then the more opportunities then you therefore get to sell and get referrals to other people. So the biggest thing I will say is you need to kind of increase that volume like tenfold. So if you really want to transition a little bit to Zoom, it's one of those things where in a normal day you might call on 20, 30 people in person, but now it's like you need to call on about 20 people an hour. So it's one of those things you're going to have to call a lot more people to get the type of results and demos that you want set up. But at the end of the day, the one thing that helped me mentality wise with this, and I don't know if Kyle is, I'm assuming, is on here, but he had shared a video back in the new year with, I think, a video from his coach about like motivation. And I got something so key out of that video about like how much each dial was worth. So for the longest time, I'm just dialing and dialing and dialing, and no one's picking up, and I'm leaving voicemail after voicemail. And I'm like, where is this taking me? And that video, if you haven't watched it yet, I definitely urge you. It's about like the mystery of motivation. She talked about like how much, if you really take, if you're new here, it's going to be harder. But if you take your year and how many calls you made in that year and how much money you made that year, you can kind of figure out like about how much money each dial is worth. And I actually found out for myself, I did this with Rob McLean a week or two ago, that every time I pick up the phone, I get paid $45. So for me, that was just like this mind-blowing moment that, even if people aren't answering, I'm leaving messages, I'm still working towards my goal of getting these appointments set up. So the main thing that I would say, if you have referrals, I know Van was talking about how many referrals people are getting in a week. This would be the opportunity to say, hey, I need a crap ton of referrals that I can call on if you're stuck at home or if you have COVID, so that you can actually make this work. Or even just prospects alone. You're still able to do everything you can do in person on Zoom. You just have to adapt and be a little bit different with that too. So if you guys don't have a Zoom account, I would definitely recommend you getting one. It's for, well, actually everyone has one because you're all on this call today. So hopefully y'all have one. Hi, bud. So definitely make sure that do you want to say hi? Okay. Yep. I told you this would happen. So this is Weston. Can you say hi? Hi. But yeah, so I definitely recommend you getting a Zoom account. Like I can actually share my screen with you guys real quick so you won't. Oh, Van, it says only the host can share this meeting. I don't know if you switched it.
I am not sharing we've had this before. Zach, Todd, can you guys spring to action and help me out with this?
It's honestly, I don't need to really share anything if you don't need me to, or if you can't, but.
I unshared my screen, so I don't know.
I think you have to change me as a host. That's my guess.
Okay, let me find. Well, I see your picture. It's right in the middle of my screen right now. So let me go to participants.
Yeah, I don't know if you can make somebody a host.
There's three little dots. Let me see if I can make host.
There you go.
Change host. You're
the host.
I
am the host. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen really quick with you guys. So basically all you do, essentially what Van's been doing on Zoom calls is just one thing that you can kind of mess around with. So to share your screen, basically, somebody holler at me if you can see my screen.
I see.
We see it. Okay. So that's my son. Yep. So that is my son, Weston. So basically, whenever I put somebody onto a call, I'm just gonna kind of step forward into an actual Zoom call with somebody, and then I'll kind of backtrack, obviously, to kind of go through like more of like what I do that's any different than what you guys do in the field. So the one nice thing as far as being able to adapt and work from home is the fact that we do have that mobile sales app. So literally everything that you do in the field, and of course I'm not logged in. Sorry, hold on. Everything that you do in the field is basically exactly what you're going to do on a Zoom call. The only difference is that when you are sharing your screen, they cannot see you. So just realize that your voice inflection and your tone and your energy need to come through without them seeing you. Do you know what I'm saying? So one of the things that, and that takes practice, but getting people to laugh and making sure that they're engaged, and everything in between. I'm actually going to keep talking, but Daddy went to work, bud. Hold on 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second, sorry. This is, we call this divine distraction. All right, sorry guys. Can you guys all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, so when you're actually on a Zoom call, guys, you're basically going to do the same thing that you do in person. You can go through all the products. Like I said, the main thing that you want to do is just make sure that you are engaging them, meaning asking questions often, having them respond to you. That is the most important part when you're doing it on Zoom, because you do miss that personal touch. The one thing that I always do is, as I'm going through my introduction, I do it the same way. But the one thing I will say is, when I'm actually on a Zoom call, what I find is so important is to kind of toggle back and forth. So I'm going to be on with me for a good chunk of the beginning. So all of the rapport building, getting to know them, their cancer story, all of that is so important, that you are face to face with that person. You want to make sure that if there's both spouses there, they can both be on the camera together. That's I think the most important part, is getting that foundation built, especially when it's somebody new. I try to do my best to like build as much rapport. If I got them as a referral, man, how do you know them? And oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like, I love them. And I remember when I went to their house and they had like 300 Lego sets everywhere. You know what I'm talking about? Like, whatever you can do to like build that trust. Because again, people don't buy stuff from you if they don't like you and trust you. So it's so important to build that in the beginning before you ever turn your screen on, as far as like sharing the demo, right? Because you need to build that foundation. And I found the hard, or the more that you can make sure that they like you before you ever go into anything, just like in the field. And I think that's one thing that has helped me kind of transition is, I hate to say it, I've spent 6.5 years in the field to be able to like gauge when people are finally with me or not, whether to move on. So if you are newer, it's going to take a little bit more practice. One thing that I always say is, if you can get them to laugh and smile at least a couple times when you're first meeting with them, that's a good gauge that they're with you. Do you know what I'm saying? So like getting them to laugh about something, smile, they like you so far. So that's a pretty good gauge that they're kind of with you. So I usually, that's kind of how I go into it. Obviously, I set up the call prior, and I'll go into that in a second as far as more of the setup. The other part that's really important for you to come back to them on, meaning stop sharing your screen and come back, is the buying atmosphere. 100% of the time, do not do a buying atmosphere without seeing the whites of their eyes, because you can tell very quickly whether they're with you or not after the buying atmosphere anyway, right? In person. So And I do that and I'm very open and I'm very transparent with people that when I do my buying atmosphere on a Zoom call, I go, cool. So basically all that's left to do is to kind of walk you through how it works. You know, most people want to know, what does it cover? How much does it cost? And how do I get my money back? So I'm going to walk you through really quick, and you can totally let me know what you think either way, right? If you like it, give me a big thumb. And I'm like this with them. Give me a big thumbs up today. We'll get you signed up. No peeing in cups. We do everything virtually on Zoom. It's so easy, right? And same token, if this is not a good fit for you, be just as comfortable giving me a big old no. And I'm literally doing this in the screen in front of them, and it's like I was literally there in person with them. And I find that, I know it's like kind of extreme, um, but I'm just telling them that it's okay to say no to me. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the whole purpose of the buying atmosphere in the first place. So yeah, give me a big ol' yes, give me a big ol' no. And like I said, the only little favor that I do ask is at the very end, just level with me. Is that cool with you? Because the hardest part about my job, I find, is people only think about this stuff twice. Once when they're healthy, hanging out with me virtually, and unfortunately, when people don't get covered right then, the second time people think about it is when. And they usually say when they get sick, right? So you want to make sure you do that intro, like the rapport building that trust, that needs to be face to face. The buying atmosphere absolutely needs to be face to face. And then the last part that I always do face to face is after I go, the rest of it is all on the actual app, right? You're going through the demo, and then if you want to see another policy, you can show them the other products too. And then you go through the commitments to you, and I'm sure you're wondering how much this costs and how old are you guys today? Here's your age bracket. Go through the cost, and then go through the return of premium. And then after you go through the return of premium, you have to go back to the client before you go back to the app. So do not go from this price, return of premium into the app. You need to go back to them face to face before you ever enter into the application. So those are kind of like the 3 points that you always want to stop sharing your screen to get back to them. Because at that point, that's when you're asking those closing questions, right? So now that you've seen everything, you know, everybody likes something different. You know, some folks love the fact that, you know, it's like a savings account. Some people love the security, peace of mind. So now that you've seen everything, Van, like what would you say is the most appealing part to you? That whole piece of this has to be face to face, because then you can tell in their faces, right? Because when you're in person selling, you can tell where they're at typically, even after the buying atmosphere, and especially after you go through the whole thing. And you know, go through those questions with them too at the very end in person. And then if they answer yes to you a few times, like, I like the peace of mind, why do you say that? Well, for my family, you know, and you'll see their eyes and their facial gestures and just know whether they're jiving with you. And then basically saying, and how'd you feel, all the while knowing if you never used it, you get your money back. Like, that'd be awesome. If you have somebody that's doing this, they're with you, right? Then it is okay to go to the application, right? So here's the cool part. I'm going to share my screen one more time, right? And then and this is what I do. So I'll pretend like Brandy, since she's staring at me right now anyway. All right. So Brandy, how would you feel all the while knowing that if you never used it, you're going to get your money back? Pretty sweet, right? Cool. So
Yeah.
here's the cool part about the way that I do business. I'm going to share my screen one more time with you. Okay. So here's
Okay.
the really cool part is the application, and you just go to the application, right? I think this is the part that's probably the hardest for most people. So the application is super simple. So all we do, we're going to get your name, your birthday, and your address, and it's just 5 health questions, but definitely nice to have an easy form, right, Brandy?
Yeah, I'm happy I don't have to go pee in a cup.
Yeah, isn't it nice? And then the cool part too, Brandy, is you can take care of this a couple different ways. Some people pay the whole year up front. That's really rare. Some people pay it twice a year, but most people just pay it monthly, but definitely nice to have options, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do monthly.
Okay, well, that's cool. So before I can offer you anything, though, I do have to ask you those health questions first, just to make sure you qualify, okay? So I'm assuming you haven't had cancer of any kind, right?
No.
Good. And since you're a girl, you don't have a prostate, right?
Nah.
Okay, that's good. In the last 90 days, have you had a biopsy?
No.
No. Any heart issues, heart disease, heart condition, angina, heart attack, anything like that?
Nope, not for me.
Good. And any AIDS or AIDS related complex?
No, ma'am.
Great. So the good news is you qualify. High five through the
Yay.
Zoom call. Good job, Brandy. Okay, so all that's left to do at this point is to find out where you get your mail at. And I know you're at 22 Circle Drive, right?
Yep.
All right, so I'm just gonna type this in. So basically at this point, you guys, you're doing it just like you would do it in person, right? You're typing it in. Your goal is to just keep moving forward, right? So you're typing in their address, here's your phone number, any information that you already have, you're gonna be filling out yourself. Then when you hit next, right, that's when it goes to the page with all of the pricing, right? So at this point, what I always go to typically for me, because a lot of people see multiple stuff, but you can just see everything here anyway, is I'm like, all right, so now you have a lot of different options to pick from, Brandy. So like I was showing you, we were going through the cancer policy first, right? So if you got the best coverage that we saw, that's $47.70 a month. Does that one work for you? Or do you want me to kind of walk you through the cheaper options too?
No, I
Right?
think that'll actually work.
Okay, perfect. So then you basically just go back into your application, right? And you put in that. And then the only thing that you're going to be doing as you're walking through the app is I'm sure you guys have noticed if you've sold at least one policy since you've been here, that you are typically still talking to them through this whole process, right? Cool. So you picked the $47. What's the biggest reason you decided to enroll today? So even if they can't see you, you're still talking through all of this stuff, right? Awesome. That's really great. Now, with this too, do you want to take care of it yearly, monthly? And then if they say monthly, you're going to get all the banking information too. The only thing that's different that's going to be kind of hard for me to show you on here is the electronic signature is the only thing that's really different. So basically, me and Rob McLean, we've been talking to the home office about this for a while, and because it's the way that we do business, so anytime something changes, we're the first people that get affected by it. So they have made it so simple. Essentially all you're doing is in that app, when it says is the applicant present, all you do is you hit no. It's going to send them an email, and even if they buy multiple applications, all that they're going to have to basically do is open one of the emails. They're going to put in their email and their birth year. We'll enter them into it to basically walk them through it. If you guys haven't seen the video of the example of how to do that electronic signature, or if you have any questions about it, just text or call me. Honestly, it's very, very simple and it's not hard to do. I had a client of mine that was in their 60s that I was able to walk through it flawlessly this week. So just realize that they made it a lot simpler than it used to be. And that's the only difference. And then obviously the only other time that you definitely want to make sure that you're face to face is thanking them and asking them for referrals. Again, that is another one of those you need that personal touch for, to make sure that your face is kind of in front of them. So if nothing else, practice makes perfect with this thing. It's not gonna go well the first couple times that you do it. So just have patience with yourself. One of the things that you can do too, that I did, was practice with another agent. So if you have two of you that are brand new to this and you're like, I've never done a Zoom call before, just practice with each other to say, hey, can you jump on a Zoom call, pretend to be my client? We'll like jumble through it really quick in like 15, 20 minutes. And you can practice the whole process. Even going on the training app, you can practice the whole electronic signature and everything without submitting anything. I definitely recommend you doing that, because that's going to make it that much, have that much more confidence when you're actually in front of somebody. And then the other thing too is if you mess up, just be real with the person you're in front of. I can't tell you how many times I did a Zoom call and like my technology stopped working and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Technology and I have a love-hate relationship. Today is a hate kind of day. And like, I mean, I had an app stop working on me halfway through. So that's another con, I guess you would say, is sometimes having that difficulty with that as well. So that's a little bit of the how-to. The only other thing I was going to share with you is you can do this with individuals, and you can do groups doing this too. I've only done a couple of them myself, so I'm the farthest thing from a professional at it. but you can do it. Typically what ends up happening is if they have a Zoom meeting already in place, like I did this with a fire company last week. It's easy enough to just say, hey, can you send me the link for your Zoom call, and I'll just jump onto it. And kind of like Van did, you can make me a host for the first 5 minutes of your meeting, and you can kind of jump onto it too. If any of you guys have questions on doing the group kind of stuff, just let me know. That typically, I said, is probably going to work better. Wow, when it rains, it pours. I got the dog, the doorbell. It's just a good day.
Calgon, take me away.
It's fine. It's fine. So, the only other thing I was going to say is when you are calling to set up appointments, honey, stop. My dog is my other child. I'm really sorry. The only other thing I was going to say is when you are setting up appointments, like I said, you do have to call a lot more people in order to set them up in the first place. But it can be a good thing, because think of the people that don't want to clean their whole house to invite you over. These are great people to catch on Zoom. I've talked to more people in their pajamas and their bathrobes in the last 7 months than I care to count. But the only other thing I was going to say is you want to make sure that you do solidify these appointments. So I use the excuse of my son all the time. So obviously, whenever I call somebody, I say, listen, I've got a 2.5-year-old. Does 6:30 tomorrow night definitely work for your schedule? Because of being a mom, like I only get 4 or 5 hours a day to work. So obviously, if somebody can't make a meeting, that kind of affects my whole day. So can I definitely count on you for tomorrow at 6:30? And they're like, yeah, definitely. And then the other thing that I always do is I text everybody the day of, usually a couple hours before their meeting is going to start, to make sure that A, they did get the invite, because if they didn't, I need to resend it, and B, that it solidifies that appointment. 9 times out of 10, if they do not text me back, I can almost guarantee that they are not going to follow through. Not always, but most of the time. So if you're able to kind of fill your schedule up, or maybe get a backup person in that time slot, you can always do that too. And kind of go from there. I realize I'm kind of going over a little bit. I know you guys usually end at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I guess at this point, I think probably the most helpful thing would be to kind of open it up to some general questions. If any of you guys have done Zoom calls or just have simple questions of kind of what's worked and what's been an obstacle or challenge you've faced with it. And I can kind of see if I can help out specifically with anybody.
Hey, Rach, while people are kind of thinking about their question, if they have one,
Yeah.
This is awesome information, by the way. And guys, here's what I'll say is, this is a skill that it's like a cancer policy, guys. It's better to have it, not need it, than need it, and not have it, right? Like we don't know. Like we didn't know last April that basically businesses were going to be shut down and people weren't going to be able to go out and walk into businesses per normal. Things were disrupted, right? We don't know if this new administration come January 20th is going to do something similar. We don't know. So It's really good to develop these skills now while it's not raining. Remember, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, right? He built it well in advance before he needed it. Okay.
Yeah.
If he had started building that sucker when it was raining, he'd have died. It wasn't enough time to get that big boat put together. So let's be like Noah and get prepared now. But guys, not just to sell people that are close to you that you can't go see for a moment, but guys, as you're getting good at referrals, and a lot of people I've seen our referrals go from single digits to people getting 30, 40, 50. It's really gotten exciting. And some of these referrals, guys, if you'll ask, they're going to give you referrals to their cousins that are in a different state. Okay. Yeah. And you got a choice. You can either hop on an airplane and fly there. You can go drive 10 hours there, or just call them up and book a Zoom. Easy, Yep. And guys, we've got some life products coming down the pipe that are going to be big premium and big commissions on that. And when you got someone here that refers you to a bunch of family members there that don't have life insurance and they need it, and it's a layup.
Yeah.
Guys, you're talking about tens of thousands of annual commissions that this will help you add to your deal, and more families you can protect. So, Rachel, I've got a quick question. You said there's 3 key parts, and you must see the whites of their eyes when you do that buying atmosphere. So shift them back. And then you said after the demo and the price, stop, screen share, and talk to them as a human before you roll into the app. There's one other part. What was that?
It's the building rapport. It's the beginning. So you want to make sure that piece of it, especially that you have built a foundation and trust before you ever start showing anything. So that part, the buying atmosphere, and then obviously like the solidification after return to premium of like, what did you like about it? How would you feel knowing that if something happened that you have this in place, all of those types of questions. And then the only other place is at the end, at the referrals part. You want to make sure that you're asking for referrals and solidifying the sale with the whites of your eyes too. Want to say hi again?
And another thing, really quick, just to share with the team, and I know Van went over this with us, and I know Rachel, you'll agree with it, but for new agents, if you are doing a Zoom, guess what? You can have your script right there. And if you're not quite sure what to say, they're not going to know that you're reading it. So that is another way just to boost your confidence and help them with those things.
Yep, absolutely.
And hey, Rachel, how are you?
Hi. Who's this?
You having your son there is like me being here with Zach.
Oh yeah, there you go.
In a group presentation, what have you done anything like to get the cards back, or how do you get the involvement from the group? Because I've got one coming up and I'm concerned about how to do that the best way.
Yeah, I can email this out. So I made this in about 3 minutes. So one thing that me and Rob kind of decided to do is if you let it up to chance as far as like them reaching out to you, it's not going to happen. So I made this and I can send it to you and you can just change your name on it. But essentially at the very end of the presentation, which I do the same kind of presentation that I would do in person, I just say, cool. So obviously this is a bit unconventional. Typically when I do these in person, if you remember from when I was there before, we have a survey card that everybody fills out. Instead, we're actually going to do a drawing for a $25 gift card. So at this point, you either want more information or you don't, right? I want every single person to text me though, your name, and whether you can text me if you're married, single parent or not. And then just text me a yes or a no, whether you want more information. And then every single person that texts me, whether you're a yes or a no, you're all going to be entered into a drawing for a $25 gift card. And then I'll call each of you guys individually. Yeah, feel free if you want to take a screenshot of this and you can make your own. It literally, that image I got off of Google. And then basically what I want people to do though, is I want every single person to at least text me, right? Because then I have their name and their phone number and a yes or a no. So essentially this replaces the survey card for me. I know I talked to Trish before and she had done like the jot forms and I tried that and it just like, it wasn't working for me as like fluid as I needed it to. So I just did a call to action at the very end of the call. And I told them, make sure you text me in the next 5 minutes because I'm going to be doing the drawing in 10 minutes for whoever wins. So, and then basically, because I guess for me, if you think about it, when I would do group presentations anyway, I'd always spend $25 on food anyway. So now I have basically everybody sending me a yes or a no. And then they text me all their names and numbers. And then I usually just have Weston pull one out of a hat and I send them a video of it and they think it's hilarious. And I don't know if it works or not, but it's fun for me. So, and I do that at the end after I go through like the return of premium. And I basically say, hey, at this point, you're going to want to know what is the cover, what does it cost? Obviously, that's going to be different for everybody. So I'm doing everything virtually. We're connecting with everybody on a Zoom call, just one-on-one. So if you want to just pick up your phone, and I do the same thing, pick your phone up, right? Plug in my phone number. And I just kind of do a call to action right then and there. I did one last week. I got 6 people to say yes and another 3 people said no. And then I called them right away. So even though the presentation was late, it like ended at like 9 o'clock at night. I called every single yes card because I wanted also to tell the winner that they won, right? And then I also told everyone else, oh man, I'm super sorry. My son didn't pick your name, but when are you free to do a Zoom call? And I try to set up appointments right then and there, even that evening, while it was kind of top of mind, which honestly, in my opinion, was so much easier than trying to chase people down in person after a meeting was over anyway. And yeah, so that's kind of how I do the group side of it. And again, I've only done this twice, so I'm not great at it. But it did work. You know, in my opinion, you're probably not going to get as many out of it. But like for me, for instance, one of the reasons, like Van was saying, if you have people that are out of state, like I was driving you guys to Delaware and staying in a hotel for days to basically be able to work some of these businesses. And what ends up happening is like, I mean, just the frustration alone for some of this kind of stuff has been saved by doing it this way. Now, mind you, I'm probably not getting the results that I normally would if I was in person. But, you know, for what I did this past Wednesday, I would have driven 2 hours down there. I would have booked a hotel that was $75 a night. I would have stayed for 2 days away from my kid and my husband to hopefully catch up with a few people, right? So in my situation, I was able to just book them on Zoom. If they couldn't meet me the next day, it was no big deal because I'm at home still. It's not like I have to drive back down to Delaware for 2 hours to go catch somebody the following week. And make a special trip for it. So for me, that is one of the big pros for me as far as, and my time is limited anyway. So
Hey,
I try to
Rachel,
make the most out of it. Yeah.
I just had this thought. It's like, you know, there are certain businesses, like I purposefully, when I was selling, would call on businesses where people were, I called it, were captive, like they worked on the premises. Car dealerships I love because everyone's there. There's a ton of employees and they don't go anywhere. Easy to catch, right? Easy to catch mice when they're already in a cage. But it's when they're a moving target. Plumbers,
Tough.
HVAC companies. I mean, when people come in for 30 minutes in the morning, they get their 4 or 5 tickets for the day and then they're gone and they're moving targets. What a great tool to be able to just say, hey, we're here face to face right now. It's good to meet all you guys and go around and meet them. But guys, we're going to
do all follow-ups on Zoom.
We're going to be doing follow-ups over Zoom because I know some of you guys are going to want to have your wife present. Some of you guys are going to want to have your spouse present. This way we can do that. And we can do it really easily.
Yeah. And one challenge too that I always find is that like people aren't always located together, right? So in the past, I've been doing this for 7 years. I might work with a business and their employees live all over the county. So like when I want to meet with an appointment, oftentimes I'm driving just for them. And, you know, this would be a good thing that like if anybody's outside of your 15-20 minute radius, just do a Zoom call instead, you know? Or like you were saying, if you get a referral out of state, I mean, I had one day, and this was a big game changer for me early on in COVID, where I literally had 4 appointments in one day. And I had a Pennsylvania appointment, a Delaware appointment, a Michigan appointment, and a North Carolina appointment in the same day. And I sold all of them in the same day. And I'm like, I told my husband, I came out, I'm like, I just worked in 4 states for the last 5.5 hours. And I would have never done that or been able to do that, you know? So like it does give you a lot of opportunity when it is stuff that is farther away from home. But just realize if you're able to catch somebody in person, I mean, even if you took Kate's course, if you can catch a referral in person, you showing up is going to be so much more effective than a phone call, always. But if you do get referred to a business that's not nearby, or you get referred to a family member that's not nearby, you know, using that smile and dial method is really important. I find you need like double the energy on the phone that you normally would in person. The other only suggestion that I would give you, because this is, I kind of learned by trial. If you guys can't tell, I'm just a fast talker in general. You have to slow down when you're calling, when you're trying to set these appointments up, especially with referrals that don't know you. you just gotta like go turtle speed. And I learned that by failing a lot. So Weston drew you all a picture, by the way. Do you want to see?
Oh, thanks, Wes.
It's really beautiful. Sorry, somebody had a question that was starting. Yeah.
I
Say,
just
hey,
wanted.
Rachel. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I don't know if it's a premium thing on Zoom. As I'm a teacher, I don't know if it's because I have a premium account, but there is a way to show the screen you and the share screen. I will look into that and let you know.
Tell me, because that would be awesome.
I would
That would be a
definitely-
big deal.
Yes, I will definitely look into that and let you know, but I do know that there is a way to share your screen and you also be able to see yourself and the other person.
And the other person, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would be that's one of the challenges, because sometimes when you can't see them, they could be cooking dinner for all you know, and you're going
Right.
through it all. And I try to do my best to just constantly be asking them questions to make sure that they're engaged. And most of the time they are. Yeah, that's a good thing if you can find that.
Yeah, and then too, I also use 2 screens, so I'm able to see, at the time, I'm able to see my class and my second screen, so that's another option as well,
Cool.
just to put that out there.
Cool. You're great. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
Hey, just FYI, for any of you guys that are, questioning how to do this with being able to see them when you share your screen. If you're using a laptop, you still will be able to see them, and they can see you if they're using, or if you're using your laptop when you're doing.
Yeah, that's the only challenge that I found is to use your mobile app. It has to be on a tablet. So that's the only, like, unless they add the app to be able to use it on your computer, then that would be an option. Or if, I don't know if there's a way of doing a dual screen with a computer and a tablet, but that's the challenge that I've had with that.
Yeah. So what I did when we started doing remote, I actually mirrored my screen from my iPad to my laptop.
To your computer. Okay, cool. I'll have to ask my tech savvy husband about that one.
Hey, question. Can you use when you go into FHLconnect.com, where it says e-app, can you sell?
No, that's what they had before they did the mobile app. So that's just like the application. It's not the whole demo. Because I had actually done that back when I first had Weston. One of the other moms that I connected with was like, you can just enroll people from home. And I'm like, that's stupid. How on earth could you ever do that? And now, of course, that's all I'm doing. But, it's a little like you'd still have to kind of go through the demo separately. And then the application is the electronic on your computer. And I don't know if the toggle back and forth would be as fluid as just doing it on your iPad. But that's just me. It's something to look into, though.
Yeah, I was the same way. I sold 90% of the policies I sold the last 3 or 4 years, just using the e-app on
the e-app.
I just would pull up the PDFs of the demo and just kind of go through them and show them, and then just click the button and go over to the app. Here's the app, real simple.
I was going to say one other thing too. I don't know if anybody has ever taken photos with their clients, but this is because I have this all on my tablet too. I was just going to show you in my photo section. These are all pictures with my clients from like the past 7 years.
That's strong.
So sometimes even if I don't remember who they are, and I'm talking to a referral, I'm like, look, this is every single person that I've ever worked with that has policies with me. And even just that alone, just seeing my face with other people, these are all the people that enroll. Another thing that I did, if you guys can see here, because with doing things remotely, you kind of have to just get creative. I actually made a family heritage album in my photos. So this actually has all of the brochures too. So if I need to just do a policy review with somebody, or, go through their current coverage or walk them through, they want to see what like all of the different levels covered. then I can actually just pull this kind of thing up pretty quickly too, to kind of walk them through. And this is also something that I could use in person in the field too. So it's kind of taking a lot of the paper out of it, to just be able to kind of show them my screen and, walk them through that kind of stuff too. So that's kind of a nice benefit too. But yeah, the photos, I think if you are new, I highly recommend taking pictures with all of your clients. Oh, good. I don't know if anybody heard that, so hopefully not. That's good, Wes. I just got an I'm pooping. This is just my life today. So that is a really helpful thing if you can take photos with all your clients, because even if and I've taken like screenshots with me and them on Zoom before, and like I just think it's awesome. It's just a fun way to get creative and build rapport with people too. So
hey Rachel, this is Toy.
Hi Toy.
Hey, I've actually, like yourself, have been on Zoom a lot. I have a couple kids. It seems like there's a lot more that's virtual learning, so I'm prone to be home a lot too, so I have to utilize Zoom a lot. And I also did a few demonstrations, group presentations with Zoom, and I have a link, and I've shared it with a few people. I thought I've actually shared it with a few more. I thought, maybe like in the Wilmington office, I thought maybe one person I shared it with, they would have shared it with like Todd and Zach and them. But I have a link where after I finish talking to everyone, that is like the our informational card that has been condensed to a link. And so
cool.
I email it to them, and then they will respond to it, and then they go it actually timestamp to my Google Doc list. I also shared it with Trish Mosher as well.
Cool.
And but I can also send that to you as well, and also would like to take your screenshot. I like the texting method that you use, and you are able to respond to them a lot faster, because the difficulty that I've actually have run into here lately is just relying on, like, most of my clients, which a lot of them are teachers. They get tons of emails already, and then they also doing a lot of virtual learning, so they don't really react to the emails.
That thing has been kind of like a trial and error for me, just because, like, I think the pro of having a survey card at a presentation is just the immediacy of it, right? They fill it out right there, they give it back right there, and then it's done with. And in talking to a few people that have done the kind of email thing you're talking about, it's just one extra step that if you could have gotten maybe 3 or 4 more people to send you a yes, because like sometimes it's a timing thing, right? It's like, oh, I totally forgot. I was interested. Oh, it's fine. It doesn't even matter anymore. But to say, hey, can everybody just text me right now? Pick up your phone, grab your phone. All right, I'm going to tell you 248. And like you literally just have them go through it right then and there. And it's done. And not only that, the one pro I would say about that is they have my phone number now. So when they text me and I call them from an out-of-state number, they already have my number in their phone. And I think that has helped in setting appointments. I think that's helped in having people answer the phone, because they've already physically inputted it themselves. And you're just saying, hey, can you guys all text me? In the next like 5 minutes from now, I'm going to do a drawing of everybody that texts me together. And then one of you guys is going to get $25, because I find anything that's just extra on their end. I mean, you might still get yeses, but I think you may get more doing it a very simple, straight, streamlined kind of way. And then the other option too, like Van was saying, is that once you're back in person, do the meeting in person, still do the survey cards. But do the follow-up on Zoom. If people are scattered everywhere or in different areas. My day is just getting so good. But yeah, and I think that's a good option too. And I know a lot of other people that have used it. I guess you could always do a trial and error of trying like one way and then the other way, and see what's easier for you and for them and what you get more response with. This is just the way that I've just found that it's super simple, and like I'm not having to chase emails around or anything like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, and I do appreciate the nugget that you shared with the cell phone or just the texting, because I think that's more effective, as well as sharing the those 3 times that you want to be face to face with your client, because I only did it at the very beginning and didn't do it and I did it at the very end, which I think that what your way would be more effective, and I definitely have jotted that down, and I'm going to utilize it moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason that I started doing that, because for me, I know most of you guys haven't even gotten to meet me in person. I'm a very, very, very face-to-face person. So this transition alone was like very weird for me, because I hug my clients and I'm like joking, like I'm very active when I'm actually with somebody. So for me to not have that opportunity, I was trying to like make it I'm trying to make it as real as I can make it. So for me, that helped as far as my son is just being a complete nugget. Here, come here. Here. There you go.
Hey, I'll
so
real quick. Sorry, Rachel.
No, you're good.
What I was going to say is, following Rob for a while now, and I noticed that you guys are very much alike as far as building rapport, see the whites of their eyes, again, during the buying atmosphere, and then, of course, at the end and asking for referrals. I will say the pros to your Zoom call heavily outweigh the cons. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at my cons, and, you know, there's selfish cons, because I got to make my calls in the evening, meaning Zoom calls in the evening. And then I have to increase the volume of calls, which that could be sourcing during the day. Those are really the only 2 hangups. I've done a good number of Zoom calls, and I will tell you, it makes you think about your business differently. It breaks the monotony, and all of a sudden, holy crap, I just made $1,200 from my office chair, you know? And I'll say to everybody, everything that you just spoke on, start implementing it today or tonight when you get back from work. Already organized as if you've got a presentation coming Wednesday. You might be asked to be in a certain situation, and run through it. Call me, call anybody. Hey, let's practice the demo. That way, when you actually do it, you're not fumbling. And the biggest thing there is slow down, but you will be shocked at how good your demo gets by doing it online. I mean, the mess ups more obvious. They're more glaring. You're like, ooh, I need to tighten that up. On top of that, testimonials. Testimonials work great because now they're looking at your screen. And in fact, you don't have to read it to them. You can use that as a moment to step away and say, hey, I got to use the restroom. Hey, I got to go get these dogs supplied or get my kids down. Take a look at this testimonial. I'll be right back. So these are all great. My biggest thing is starting to implement right away.
Yeah. And the one thing I would definitely recommend, if you guys have like a best bud in the business, I would recommend schedule a call this week, jump on the training app and go through the whole thing with everything. Have you run through it one time and have them run through it one time to do the e-signature and everything. I would highly recommend, if you've never done a Zoom call before, if you have, I don't think you need to, but if you've never done it, this is going to be your first time. Find a buddy and just say, hey, can we connect for 30 minutes one day this week, and just do a run through of it? Because me and Rob actually did that a lot, because we were really the only 2 people that were just working. That's good. That were just working from home and with the e-signatures and stuff too.
That's classic. Rachel, this right here is this right here. What we're hearing, this is what makes all this work. I mean, this is great that you're able to be home.
Oh my God.
And be a mom for Weston and hear that little voice say things like PP, and this it is absolutely hilarious and a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And God bless you for making your business, building your business around your life, not your life around your business. That's a special thing. There we go, more PP. So hey,
I think did somebody have a question? Yeah.
Sorry, this is Casey Fun.
Oh, hey
I just
Casey.
have a question. How are you?
Good.
when you're I know you spoke about being out of state or selling to out of state people. Do you just make a note in the notes that you're selling through Zoom and where you're located and where they are? How does that work?
Yeah, so typically most of the states that I'm selling in that are out of state, I'm licensed in them. So one thing that you want to do is if you're getting a lot of referrals, like me and Van were talking about this the other day. Check them out.
I'm a mom, so I love it. I think it's hilarious.
It's so good. I'm so happy you guys are entertained because this is like making my whole day.
That's thing to me all the time.
Okay, good. So basically out of state people, just make sure you're licensed there. And then you're going to basically like for all my Delaware people, I just pull up the Delaware application. And then and it's already remotely done if you're doing a signature that's an e-signature. So you don't need to write it in the notes section anymore like you used to when you did the email for the e-signature. Now, if it is somebody that's like out of state where you're not licensed, if somebody referred, okay, Wes, we'll get. It's just so good. If it is somewhere you're not licensed, and it's like adjacent to where you are, then you could always put it in the notes section, like in the state of Delaware. Like if I got referred to somebody that lives in Maryland and I sold them a Delaware policy, right? So I'm not technically licensed there. Now, if it's the opportunity where you have to get a lot of referrals in a new state, you know, you could spend the $50 to $100 just to get licensed there if you know that you're going to be able to work a good amount there. If it's just for one person, I guess use your own judgment on that, whether you feel the need to get licensed in that state first, or you can just, like for me, for instance, like I got a lot of referrals from a client and her whole family lives in Maryland, but she lives in Delaware, right? So if I work with those people, I might sell a Delaware policy. Okay, that sounds really good. Here, take this. Can you take this? Here, draw me a picture. Thank you. Oh man. So yeah, I guess just use your discretion when it comes to out-of-state people. It might be one of those situations that if you're doing this more, like I'll probably get licensed in a couple more states if it means like getting in somewhere, right, just for the ease of it. If it's about one person, I mean, I don't think you're going to get in a ton of trouble if you sell one policy and you're not licensed there from a different state. Before it was a bigger deal because you had to sell insurance in the state that you were there. Like I live in Pennsylvania and I have a ton of clients that live in New Jersey that work in Pennsylvania that were never able to get policies before because they have a New Jersey address. Now it's more like signed in the state of, so it's easier to kind of get around that a little bit more. But when you're doing it virtually, obviously I don't have the right answer. So if you have questions like Van told me to do, call the home office, talk to, is it Robin or Ruth, Van, in underwriting?
Ruth Campanelli is the head of underwriting.
Ruth.
You may get her, you may get somebody.
Yeah, but you can check with them. They're probably going to tell you just to get licensed in the states that you're selling in. Is like my guess, but
like a dark red or something.
Hey, Ariel, hold on. One thing that you need to do, like whenever you selling or talking to a client outside of your state that you're licensed in, at the in the comment section, you just state that you actually wrote the policy in your state. You have to put it in the comments, right, because yours won't match. Their address is different, totally different from where you are. You just gotta put that in the comments, and then it won't have any issues or anything pending.
Yeah, that's probably the best bet. Like if you do have somebody that's out of state selling your state's policy on Zoom and just say it was written in the state of wherever you are, it's probably the best option to do if you're not sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I apologize for the craziness. Is there any other questions that anybody's got? But this is why I do it. Can you guys tell? Because this is my everyday. Just trying to juggle and balance it all. So
I think you
I
did a
will
very
say,
good job. Thank you.
thank you, Brandy. I will say the one thing as far as like, even though it's a con, like somebody was saying, you have to call a lot more people. The one thing I will say is way less frustrating, like on your own mental self, when somebody does bail to have it have been a Zoom call. Because for me, I used to drive an hour to go see somebody sometimes. And then they wouldn't be there, but I would have had to take him to a babysitter, set all that up, pay for that. It was a lot more that went into an appointment happening.
Hey Rachel, it's Caitlin Roberts. Quick question.
Hey Caitlin.
First of all, thanks so much. All of your information has been really, really helpful.
I hope so.
No, it really has been. Other than, calling on referrals, what would you do when you're not calling on referrals? I'm sure that your business is pretty much all referrals now, but would you suggest, calling businesses via Sales Rabbit? Like, what would you recommend for those of us that are now having to move to a quarantine because of stuff in our area? Like, how would you recommend doing that?
So here's what I would do. So I'm just going to put myself in the shoes. I'm going to put myself in the shoes that I'm a brand new agent and don't have a large list of clients to call on. That is something that I have done, is like do like more of a reservicing to people that I work with. But I would say if you can find, like, for example, I'm part of a business organization in my area where I could easily take that time to just start calling on businesses. Like, instead of showing up in person, just calling them over the phone and introducing yourself, explaining that you're a part of the chamber or, whatever it might be. And, kind of explain your situation of, obviously with COVID, we're doing everything a little bit different, and you just wanted a call to introduce yourself and get to know them, right? So you can kind of start there if you work more of the business market. And then obviously the more referrals that you can also get into other businesses to call. Like, every business you talk to has the opportunity to refer you to 5 or 6 other businesses. Like, hey, who else do you know in the area that might appreciate a phone call, or just that I should introduce myself to? Kind of the same way that you would do it in the field. You're just letting your fingers do the walking instead of you. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to call more people to get stuff set up, but you can still have some great conversations with people over the phone. One thing that Kate recommended too is, if you are calling referrals or somebody, see if they can get on a video call right away, right? If they have an iPhone, to say, hey, do you have an iPhone? You want to FaceTime real quick? I'd love to just meet you in person. Hi, Wes. But it's a time to just get creative, right? Like, who have you always wanted to talk to? What businesses have you? Okay, my son is naked, so I'm really sorry. What businesses do you want to connect with? What people do you want to be a part of that you could just call and introduce yourself? And whether it's setting up an appointment for when you're back in the field, or just having a conversation over the phone and just saying hi. I think everybody's getting more used to the fact that this is a weird time. So everybody's a little bit more open to having conversations,
Yeah. Hey guys, I just want to real quickly just make something really abundantly clear, is that, guys, this is another way.
Yeah.
It's a new way. And kind of like back in the day, people used to start off in our business selling residentially first, and then they would, hey Rach, just hit mute just for a second while I'm counting.
Okay, go get it.
And so people used to sell residentially first, and then they would transition into the B2B market. Why? Because residential is simpler. There's less hoops to jump through, less obstacles. Well, back when we did that, it was always encouraged that we continue. We don't just stop one day with all of our residential and just go start cold calling businesses. It was encouraged for us that we transition, which meant that we went out and called on businesses for 40 hours a week. And then in the evenings, we would still go call residentially from 5 p.m. until 8:30 or 9 p.m., at least 2, maybe 3 nights a week. So it was a period of working, instead of 40, 45 hours, 55 to 60 hours for a period of time while we develop that new skill. Because if you just kind of cut one thing off and start the new skill, all of a sudden income disappears. And then we go, we start freaking out. So we just need to, this is very similar to that, guys. It's a great skill to implement into your business. I wouldn't recommend that you throw the baby out with
not every page
and say, hey, I'm just going to do everything over Zoom. It would be a really good idea to still guard your normal sales time, your bread and butter, how you know how to make money already. And then in the evenings, when you're normally not working, do some Zooms, start developing those skills, learn what you don't know, and then start to develop those skills and get better at it. And if you do end up getting as good as Rachel, who again sold $390,000 of premium, almost 400K in her best year face-to-face, she's figured out how to transition that into 250K last year of exclusively Zoom. So from her best year until there's a drop off. Now, fortunately, that's a drop off from a whole bunch of income to still a whole bunch of income. For some of us, if we have a 40% drop off, we wouldn't be able to take care of our responsibilities financially. So just kind of keep that in mind as you transition. Do it with what you know how to do, not just instead of what you know how to do. That makes sense. Be smart.
I was going to say, just the last thing along with that is, if you guys are looking to transition to adding a little bit of it, take an hour a day in the evening to just call, right? So if you're like, let's say you get home from work at like 5:30 or whatever, from 5:30 to 6:30, make 15, 20 phone calls and just see what happens, right? And if you get a couple things set up, if you don't get a couple things set up, it doesn't matter, because you still had all your work that you did during the day, and then if you're able to put in a couple Zoom calls a week, it's just going to be something in addition to what you're already doing. Evenings I've found are great call times to reach people, and same thing with Sundays. I know nobody wants to work on a Sunday. I hate working on Sundays, but I do it because I know it's going to set my week up or help me set my week up. So, whether you say, I'm going to call 2 hours on Sundays and 1 hour Monday through Thursday, and that's going to be my Zoom training of trying to get that kind of stuff set up. And you might be calling people where you could set up in-person meetings too, potentially. So just use your best judgment, but I agree with Van and transitioning to have it be a part of it. So I'm always open if you guys have questions. Hopefully most of you guys have my number. I'm doing my best to try to set up some Zoom calls for this week. I have a couple on Wednesday, but it's been an interesting couple days. So yeah, if somebody does want to follow me on a Zoom call, feel free to text me and I can kind of keep you in the loop with when. I know a couple people have done that already. As far as when I'm going to be jumping on a call, you're more than happy to kind of join in on those calls too. So
Rachel, are you cool if I share your cell number on Voxer? Just people don't have it?
That's fine. That's fine. And just realize I'll do my best to kind of get to everybody, but my schedule is a little funky, so I don't always have a ton of appointments set up. I try, but it does. Again, one of the cons of it is it takes a lot of effort to get stuff moving sometimes. So I'll try to squeeze everybody in as I can to get people to be able to follow and kind of learn. So absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And sorry for my naked 2.5-year-old that's been talking pee the whole time.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just like going to Wilmington and being at one of their meetings. That's all.
I know.
Kind of what we talk about.
That's all we talk about. Can you say bye, Weston? Can you say bye?
No. Bye, Wes.
Bye. Farewell.
My name's Wes, and I ain't in this mess.
Weston, can you say now you get potty?
My name's Wes, and I'm going to change my mess. Guys, thanks for being on this extra long version of the call today. I think I heard from a couple people that it was still recording the whole time. So I started at about 30 minutes in. So I think we got an hour and 15 minutes of some pretty good content. And guys, all this is housed on our YouTube channel. We'll get into that a little bit more, but we started a Protect One Family YouTube channel where we're recording our Zooms. So it's all archived. So I'll be sending out some information about that. That's not so we can skip the live one, because that's always better to get it live. But it's so if we do have a one where we miss every now and then, we can definitely hop back on and still go get that content and use it to sharpen our own saw. So guys, thanks for being on, and have a great day. And let's just do the best we can with what we have and use all the resources we have available. Rachel, thanks so much for speaking today. That was awesome.
You're welcome. It'll be a fun one for the archives.
Right on. Bye, guys.